Oh, good everyone. I'm Toolman. I'm your host of the Supercoach Hub Weekend Wrap, and I'm joined by Harold. Harold,
Hey.
how you going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Hopefully, I got about 1,268 this week. Hopefully, that pushes me a bit up from around 5K. You know.
Oh, that's solid, mate. This week's been a really interesting week. I'd call it the Supercoach Tease week. We had all these prime matchups. We thought all our captains were going 150 plus, and it just didn't happen. So it's been the biggest tease I think I can remember for a long time. Is that what are your thoughts on all these big guns going sub 100?
Oh, uh, Watching Ponga in that last game, the Knights putting bloody over 30 points on the on the Bulldogs and barely an attacking stat there.
Yeah, I put the captaincy straight on Nico as a pod when I saw everyone had gone Cleary Ponga, and that turned out to be a nightmare after Nico got a 55, and I've had to, watch from behind the lounge Mitchell and then Ponga play. I've got away with it, but it didn't help me. I've had a terrible score. I don't even want to say what it is. Bottom of my league. So let's move on. So tonight we're going to we'll go through game by game, just pulling out, the key things that we've sort of noticed from the games. We're going to talk about the SJ Hines Cleary dilemma, what we might do there. We'll drill into fullbacks, and we'll also look at all positions and who we think we'd have in our ideal team by position for the run home. So let's go to the Manly Panthers game. Did you catch this game, Harold?
Yeah, it was the first half from Manly was pretty impressive actually. In my opinion, they should have been ahead by half time, but the Panthers managed to just jag that try at the end, draw it up.
Look, I've got the Manly jersey on. Big Manly fan. This was prime DCE. He was taking the line on a lot. I remember when he started when he first started playing grade, and he led the tackle bus for the first two seasons, I think he played. And this he was back to that sort of form, running it, bouncing off guys, throwing it everywhere. But seriously, Ruben Garrick, you have lost your kicking license. That was just insane. What did you make of the kick from inside your 20?
Oh, that was... I don't even know what to think there. He just had a brain explosion. Thought he was playing Union. No idea. Yeah.
Those.
Sorry, what was it?
A lot of people sacked Garrick this week.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the matchup. Were you one of those?
Yeah. I put in Taruva for him, so I can't complain, but it would have been nice to have him there.
Well, you owe him, right? He kicked it. From that kick, that's when Taruva scored. From
that's
that crazy
point,
kick.
Yeah.
So, as an aside, I've got Garrick and Taruva in my draft side, and I love that play by Garrick. Like, thank you. Like, it couldn't have been any better plan. But what are we thinking here with Manly? Like, that was their hardest matchup. DCE's gone 96, Garrick's gone 80.
Yeah, well,
who would you be looking at from anyone from Manly? Because the draw definitely opens up now for the last three.
For me, it's definitely Garrick, but everyone's got Garrick. They'll probably be playing him, but also Olakau'atu. He's done pretty well. He had a mixed week this week. Only got around 57, I think it was, but he could definitely be a good pod in the next few weeks. Just try and get those ranks up.
I agree. I agree. We all saw the stats last year without Tommy. What happened with Olakau'atu, and he's the prime go-to guy. And now that it's opened right up, I'd love to have him in my 2RF for the run home. What about on the Panthers side?
It's hard to buy any Panthers considering the restings I'll probably do in like this late in the year. But if I had to choose someone as a pod move, I think it would be Tago. He's just looking excellent, making those runs in. It's been a hard watch as a Taruva owner, but you can't lie with the stats he's been putting up.
Oh, there's nothing worse than owning a winger outside of ball hog, and he's one of the best. Yeah, I think so. He comes back next week, doesn't he? So
Yeah, I think
you
so.
get 2 rounds. We don't know if Panthers are going to rest. I personally believe they will rest. What are your thoughts? Do you think they rest in round 27?
I'm not sure, to be honest. It depends if the Broncos are still going for the minor premiership, because they'll probably rest at least Cleary. But if they really want to win that match, I think Tago's someone where they could just play him, because there's a lot of Origin players that they would rest before him. It's hard to tell though. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think we'll leave it there because I think we'll come back to Cleary when we talk about the halfbacks for the run home. So let's move on to the next game: Sharks versus Gold Coast. A 36-6 drubbing, and Hines gets 55. What were your thoughts on this game?
I think it showed just how good Trindle could be, because he really showed how well he could control the attack. He really dominate. He was the dominant half in this game. I think he really just. I think what did he end up on, like 80 something, and it showed. Yeah. It was good to see the Sharks play well, even if Hines didn't go big. But obviously, all us Hines owners would rather he does. But it makes things interesting next year if Trindle's going to be that long-term 6.
So you couldn't even, there's no way you're going to put him up against the big 3. So he's really irrelevant unless you're in draft comps. So what do you think about the guy who caught my eye? He's killing it, McInnes.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that if you traded him in a few weeks ago, you're laughing. I think, what is it, back-to-back hundreds? He would have gotten close last week. It's just crazy the stats he's putting up. We expected for him to go a bit bigger, going in at lock, but it's just been nuts.
Yeah, he's a solid buy any time Finucane's out.
Yeah,
I really rate him. Not sure he's a trade in now though. Let's turn to the Gold Coast though. Big Tino gets over again.
Yeah, he just can't stop him when he's back. He was obviously fired up for that game, and he showed why he's the guy to own in the front row.
Like, I think he scored 107 with a line break try, but you take it out, it's still 70 plus.
Yeah. So he's just.
I'm locking him in. If I want a front rower for the last 3 rounds, I think Tino should be one of those front rowers. Is that where you would be?
Yeah, he's definitely the guy to own there. I think the Titans have a few good matchups, but it doesn't really matter with Tino. He'll either go just 60, 70 if he doesn't get anything, but if he can jag an attacking stat, he'll go real big.
So the Titans run home next 2 are really tough till they hit the Bulldogs in the last round. They got Panthers, Melbourne.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, would you, if you're a David Fafita owner, would you move off him, or would you let's say, would you trade him, even for the next 2 rounds?
If I had like 4 trades, it's definitely something to consider, because he doesn't look like he's the same I'm going to go score a try David Fafita that we saw earlier in the year. I think there isn't any really other great options that have his sort of gun status in the 2RF position, though. So it really depends if you think you're going to back a pod play and try and get those ranks, but it could really backfire. So it's a hard one.
It is very hard because he's a guy who can create points out of non-structured. Like, he's not. He creates his points just off his own individualism. So they don't set up very well for him. They've been better this year, but outside of Foran, but Foran's not there anymore. And he's just a guy who can just tap and go or get to dummy half and bust 5 tackles and score. Doesn't matter who it is. So yeah, he's a hard one, but he's selling him. But I'd be tempted to bench him against the Panthers. I think he's still playable versus Melbourne and the Dogs. That's probably where I'd sit with it.
I think I think he's one of those guys where you could consider selling him, but there's surely better options somewhere else that could just
Yes,
that don't
that is a
don't
very
have his
valid
pay.
point. You know that he's so far ahead in his position. You'd definitely be targeting some of those other spots, before him. Okay, well, let's move on to the next game. And wow, I did not. I thought the Broncos would win, but wow, they absolutely flogged the Eels, 54-10. What were your thoughts on this game?
I was it was really impressive by the Broncos. I think they really put their hand up and say we are title contenders. We're coming for the Panthers. It's definitely going to make titles like it's going to make the title challenge pretty interesting because if they can play like that in the grand final, they've got a real shot.
I agree. I think there is a line drawn underneath the Panthers and the Broncos. They are so far in front of the rest of the competition. It's not funny. And it's going to be a ripper game. I'm pretty confident those two are going to meet. Maybe not in the grand final, but yeah, Broncos, fantastic. Really good. And I couldn't be more impressed with them in this game. There was some big fallout from this game. Moses is gone for the season.
Oh yeah, tough, tough for him. I don't think there would have been too many owners, considering the halfback three that's already been established, but still heartbreaking for him.
Yeah, my thoughts now are it's abandoned ship Eels assets. It's if you got a Madison, a Hopgood, a Gutho, if you haven't got rid of them already, I'm saying abandoned ship. Is that where you're at, or do you have a different opinion?
But well, with the Eels attacking players, I think it's definitely you got to get out of there. They're not going to be getting much stats anytime soon. I think Eels forwards you could hold off, just hope they get some better minutes, especially Maddo. If he starts, he's still a hold, definite playable option. But Eels attacking players, you got to get the hell out of there.
Okay, that's fair enough. What about Reece Walsh?
If only he didn't get suspended. He's absolutely electric. That's why we bought him back then. But yeah, just if only.
So they go into the bye this week, and then they have the Raiders, and then Melbourne. It's like if you're a Reece Walsh owner right now, what would you be thinking?
I guess it depends a little if you're head to head or overall, but I think, well, as a troll owner, I'm looking at trading in Walsh in round 26 just because he looks so amazing at the moment. So I think he is worth holding, but the buys at the end of the year always make things annoying.
Yeah, I think behind that Broncos forward pack, he's just absolutely shining. Like he had all the razzle dazzle at the Warriors, but they didn't have the pack that the Broncos have. I know the Warriors have improved, but he's definitely upgraded his pack, and he is absolutely killing it. Let's save it for our fullback discussion. We'll move on to Payne Haas. He's just sort of. You had a good week last week. This week is 64. We mentioned Tino in the front row. Who would be the front rower you'd pair up next to Tino in your front row for the run home?
Haas has been solid, but I think considering their matchups, I think the Warriors, particularly Adam Fanua-Blake, he's the guy to own. He seems to be going over for a try every week, and they've still got good matchups to go.
Yeah, I agree, Harold. That's exactly where I'm at. I'd love a Tino AFB as prime consideration. You're not upset if you have a Haas. I have Haas. I'd like to switch him to AFB, but obviously I can't. But that's where I'd be going for the run home. Okay, next game was South versus St. George. Did you catch this game?
I think I catch some of it. I had to leave for a little bit though. I think Souths just seem to be winning, but never convincingly. That's what I got out of this game anyway.
Yeah, unfortunately, I caught only parts of it as well, but I came away with the same impression from what I saw. That South, that was the word you used, the right word, unconvincing. And I think they've been unconvincing for weeks now. Everyone sort of thinking, they're going to snap into gear, they're going to, come out and click, and they're going to fire, and it's just not happening. And I think, I just don't think they've got enough to go with a Broncos or a Panthers in the finals. We've got 3 rounds left. We've got Newcastle by Sydney. What do you think with your South assets? A lot of people have got AJ and Mitchell and Cody Walker.
Yeah, it's been a hard watch as a Cody owner, and he managed to finally get those late points to translate into a pretty good score this week, like 80 or so, pending updates. But it, just like the South, he seems to be a bit shaky until the last 10 minutes where they managed to clinch the win. I think they're definitely worth the hold against the Knights, but it'll definitely be a conversation to be had in round 26 to sell them or not.
Yeah, they can cover that on next week. Yeah, big calls on South's assets after the Newcastle matchup. Now that we just seen that game finish and they've lost Hastings, it may change things around for that game. Let's move on to the next one. Sorry. Look at me. I've just totally dissed St. George. It was at. Should we spend any time on St. George?
They look pretty irrelevant in terms of SE Supercoach's assets, to be honest. Lomax, to be fair, was good for a few weeks there, but I'm not touching any of them.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Dragons fans, but I think that's all the time we should spend on you guys for a Supercoach for the run home. West versus New Zealand. Dane Laurie. What a game.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. It was pretty impressive by him, considering he hasn't played most of the year. But,
that's the best game I've ever seen play. Unfortunately, he's fullback only. Yeah. So I don't think there's anything we can do with that. But, wow, he's playing the Dolphins next week. Yeah. Like one for draft or head-to-head players, for sure. I think he is a great one-and-done matchup next week.
Hard to trust any Tigers attacking player, but he certainly looked the goods in that game. That's for sure.
What about Api Coruscant? We now have a goal-kicking hooker. The last one was Cameron Smith. What are your thoughts on Api Coruscant versus Mr. Harry Grant?
I think it'll depend on Harry Grant if he's benched next week. But if he is, Coruscant is definitely an interesting pod play. I guess the only thing with Harry Grant is it doesn't really matter the opposition he's up against. He seems to just find those tries and try assists anywhere. But Coruscant definitely looks the goods.
Yeah, Harry's still the best, in my opinion. But if I had to pod, I'd be going to Api Coruscant. Wes, they've got the Dolphins next week without JMK. So they were awful. Isaiah Katoa seriously missed. I just watched the match highlights. He missed Drew Hutchinson twice on either side of the field. Missed Nat Butcher. He had an absolute shocker, and I think we've seen them fading pretty hard towards the back end of the season, and they're looking for the off season. As far as I'm concerned, they've run their race. Asako, though.
Yeah. Just refuses to have a bad score. It's been great.
Are you an Asako owner?
Yeah, I am. It's always a nerve-wracking watch until he gets his junk right at the end.
Yes, thank you, Jared Wallace. Look, I think if he's the only asset, because on the other side of it, they are playing West next week. So what a great time to own Asako. So
I think.
Is there anyone else you'd be looking at?
Uh, if I another pod hooker is I think Nicarima, just purely on I'm gonna be guessing he's going to 6 next week, considering how bad Isaiah Katoa did play in that game. So he could be an interesting option. Although I think on price, Api Coruscant could definitely be beating him as a pod play.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout about Nicarima. Who knows where I think there may be a shuffle in the Dolphins side after that performance, especially with JMK out for the season. Graham will probably come in, but yeah, let's wait and see on that. Is there anything else you want to say about either of the west side?
Not too much. It's Bateman was interesting. Got over 20 points in updates, which I appreciate as someone who was playing him. But it's just a team for the future, I guess. Just see how they can build to next season.
Yeah, Bateman has been disappointing. He was brought in mid-season for the bye coverage, and he started well, and then he's faded. But it looks like he's a definite play next week to me against the Dolphins side, and then he's got who knows what he'll do against Sydney and Manly in the last two. So he's probably one I'd be tempted to hold for the rest of the season.
Yeah, he looks like, well, yeah, for me, he's just now looking like a solid 5th 2RF, 6th 2RF sort of option. Yeah. Nice reserve.
A lot of people, let's turn to the Warriors side of this game. And a lot of people brought in DWZ, and he got a 58 or something, which was pretty good. But it was the forwards, Tohu and AFB points.
Yeah, it's that Tohu's he keeps just chucking out those scores. I've been able to keep playing him week by week, but it's been good owning one of them. But Fanua Blake definitely would be a guy I'd love to have in my team.
What about is there anyone else? So would you be advocating Chance? I think I heard in a press conference that he's probably likely to come back in. A lot of people were keen. Would you be bringing in Chance for the last 3 weeks if you'd moved off? Manly St George Dolphins?
Well, I brought Chance in for his head knock week, which was heartbreaking. But I would probably still advocate for people to buy him pending team lists and all that. He does seem to keep being unlucky, but if he can perform well in those good matchups, he could be looking at back-to-back hundreds. So still looks like a good option.
If you had one trade and you had already had SJ, which Kiwi asset would you bring in?
That's a hard one. I'd probably do Fanua Blake, just that safety. He'll crank out a 60, but he could crank out 100, just knowing him. Yeah, he seems like a pretty great option, and one of the second to Tino in the front row.
Yeah, I'd go the same way. Yeah, that was FB combo. Okay, so let's go to the next game. We've got Sydney 30, the Dolphins 14. The Roosters winning 30-14 over the Dolphins.
Oh yeah, that was a hard watch.
Why was it a hard watch for you?
That was a hard watch as a Dolphins fan.
I didn't realise you were a Dolphins fan.
Yeah,
I've been trashing them. So sorry, Harold.
Yeah. It's fair enough. They've been playing pretty badly. It was a fairy tale start to the season, but they've really dropped off in recent weeks. Injuries haven't helped. It's been ridiculous. I think Lemuelu and Kennedy have now got HIAs looking shaky to return next week.
I think he's already been. I think they've already said that he won't be back. Connolly's. I think he ruled both of them out. The words were unlikely or something by Bennett to play next week.
It's going to make that that matchup next week pretty interesting, considering the forward pack has been completely annihilated with Gilbert, JMK, Lemuelu, and Kenny Bromwich now out.
That's why I mentioned it. I like Dane Laurie for a one and done. I like Happy Coruscant as a pod play in these head-to-head big games. They're flagging, and they've lost some key players as well. So they're just your final one or two trades, which I'm sure most people are on for the run home.
Yeah.
As a what do you think about Tedesco? Because he's someone has been Supercoach royalty for years, but he's sort of coming up against the Roosters' form issues. What do you think about Tedesco for the run home?
He's definitely an option. He has been for most of the year. It's just he doesn't seem to have the upside of the guys like Trell or Walsh or even Ponga, which is what you really want in your fullback position. So he's a guy you could go for, but with limited trades, there seem to be better options.
He does have one thing going for him over Trell and Walsh, and that's that he plays all three. And Hutchinson. I actually don't. Well, we'll talk about our fullbacks. Let's just save it for our fullback chat. But I don't mind Tedesco for the run home. Manu, what are your thoughts on Manu for the run home?
He just keeps cranking out big scores. I think he is an option to buy in the centre wing, although there do seem to be a few guys just going above the rest in attacking stats in a few bigger and better attacking teams, but he refuses to just lay low, and he keeps tackle busting his way to those 60s, 70s, 80s scores.
He's been really, really, really good and consistent. I think a lot of people brought him in mid-season, and he hasn't let them down. For his, typical buy coverage, Joey Manu. It seems like that is a staple recipe that we can just bank on. Today, we turned to today's games. We had the Storm ripping Canberra a new one. Did you watch this?
Yeah, it was brutal. I was certainly not expecting. I was expecting the Raiders to possibly beat the Storm in a close encounter, considering their history, but I was certainly not expecting them to be trashed 40-something to 2.
So I went to touch football training. It was 0-0 after 10 minutes, and I turned on the app, and it was 38-2 with 10 to go. I was like, "What happened?" So can you tell me what happened?
Oh, this just paper thin defense pretty much sums it up. People like Elisa Katoa, he could just run straight over the line and score. It was just almost too easy.
What happened to Tapanay and Horsburgh? I saw they've scored very low.
Yeah, I think the Raiders just got dominated through the middle. They didn't seem very up for the game. I think, Taps didn't. It didn't help that he didn't play too many minutes, but I think it was mostly just the forward pack just got dominated by Melbourne. What
do you think about if you were a Tapanay or a Horsburgh owner now? What would you be doing?
If you have the cash and the trades, it's definitely worth a trade to Tino or Adam Fanua-Blake. It would definitely see a few points. I think they don't have the same upside, and if the Raiders keep playing like this, they don't have close to the same base.
Yeah, Ricky tends to get away with it. I don't know how he does. I think there's several times every year where I think he's a terrible coach. But then he sort of pulls them out for a bit, and he sort of gets, just, I don't know. He just bounces off the line of okay performance. Falls under it for a bit, and then he gets it back. I don't know what they do there, but they got a great Bulldogs matchup. So if I've got Horse and Tapanay, I'm holding for that game because of what we just saw. and then I'm see you later.
Yeah, it seems fair.
Is there anything? Oh, hang on. We should cover the Storm. What did you make of? We talked about Harry Grant. What did you make of Munster?
He was a bit quiet. He wasn't exactly the star of the show. I think. Well, towards the end, it was definitely Meany who really tore things up. But it also it's just across the team. I think they just attacked really well, and I think that was what got them that sort of result. Was that Munster or Grant didn't have to just stand up alone. They just dominated as a team. I think Munster is still definitely a good option when the Storm are playing like that, but he isn't seeming like the guy to go to for Melbourne at this point.
He's just such a good. He's done nothing and he scored 80 plus, and that's him. And he's now got the Dragons and the Gold Coast back to back. Like, I'd love to have him in my side. I think he's a great option. You know, he's going to be hard. Like, this guy averages 70 standing on his head. So really, how are you going to anti-pot him? I just can't see him being anti-potted for the way home. So if you don't have him, I'd be strongly advocating that you have Munster for the next 3 rounds.
Yeah, I'm definitely considering him for my last trade. Just Storm looks amazing.
We won't talk about Nick Meany, who's been sensational. I suppose we can, because he's in the centre's position. So when we get to fullbacks, I'll talk about it now. I just listened to the press conference, and they asked Bellamy about Pappenhausen. I don't know if you saw it, and Bellamy said that they'll take it week by week. He didn't rule out Pappenhausen being back round 25, but he thought round 26 was a definite. It sounded like a much firmer date for Pappenhausen showing up. Yeah. So that would be against the Gold Coast. So I can't imagine. That is the Super Coach head-to-head grand final. I can see Captain Pappy making some people very happy or sad in round 26. I can see, it doesn't take much to think that a few he is named in round 26. Would you said you're looking at Munster. Would you consider Pappenhausen if, now that it's sort of on the horizon that he actually will be available, or highly likely to be available for the last 2 rounds?
If there isn't an obvious person on the bench to spell him in round 26, he would be a genuine option. I don't think I would have the guts, though, to captain him. I think at price, though, he looks pretty unavailable, just with some of the players that are like Munster that you could be getting for 300k less. But he definitely.
I've heard people say, he'll come off the bench. They'll ease him in. I'd urge those people to watch the press conference of Bellamy, because the way he talked about it definitely inferred that they would move Nick Meany to the wing or to another position. He talks about the game today, so they have no pressure on bringing Pappenhausen back. But then he just followed on to say, but Nick can also play any position in the back line. So, my read is, if Pappenhausen's named, he will somewhere else, most likely on the wing. So I think for those who are running low on trades and they think that this might be a good play, you might have to start planning this week.
Yeah, I think what Bellamy will do is probably plan for about 50, 60 minutes, then probably have someone on the bench like Tanana
that's okay. We'll go with that.
What's his name?
I don't want to try and pronounce it, so I'll let you make the mistake if there was one. And that guy.
Yeah, but regardless, in 60 minutes he could score bloody 4 tries and a half again. So he is definitely an option, but he it will be a hard
Yeah,
option to get
it's
to.
like Drinkwater, right? When Drinkwater was going to the moon, and a few people tried to catch that. And if you got on even up into the 900s on the way up, you still would have been quite happy. It's going to be one of those situations where a lot of people won't be able to do it in one trade, and therefore they won't be able to do it because they don't have more than one, and they want to keep that final trade or a couple of trades in the bank for the carnage that will be round 27.
Yeah, as someone with only one trade left, I'm definitely
I've
nervous.
been on, yeah, it's not me, but yeah, I'm on fumes. I've been on zero for a while now, and that's why I'm.
Oh, wow.
I feel like one of those astronauts with the cable cut at the moment. Okay, let's turn to the Knights Bulldogs game, which was the game that's just finished. Did you catch this game, Harold?
Yeah, I didn't actually watch all of it, considering just how disappointing the Bulldogs were. But it was definitely not what we expected, considering the Bulldogs had pretty much their starting side back for this one.
Yeah, this was the weekend where there was points galore by the sides we expected to score points galore, but the key super coach beneficiaries didn't go nuclear. There was just points all over. Like when I logged in and I looked at the Storm game. No one was over 100 at 38-2. It was only the last two tries that pushed Meany over. And that seemed to be the story for the whole round. What did you make of Gagai? Would you be bringing Gagai in?
He definitely. I don't have Gagai, but he definitely looks like a great option for the run home. He seems to just be going out on his own, getting those tackle busts, similar to Manu. He's just attacking the line.
Yeah, look, I
Definitely
love
guy to
him.
own
I
for the
would
run
love to
home.
get him. And to me, stocks only went up because he went to fullback when Ponga went off. So you're going to get someone who's busting tackles and then gets to move to fullback for the run home. So he was averaging sensationally before that, and now you've got this fullback upside for the last 3 rounds. So, spoiler alert, I've got Gagai in my top 4 centres for the run home. I don't think it's any surprising. I'm not saying anything that no one who's been watching the game. It's not rocket science when you say a top averaging centre should be the guy you have for the run home. But I think it's quite solid, and the fact that he played fullback back up now, I think is great for his stock. Is there anything else you want to bring our attention to on the Knights? Are you seeing any other players of interest there that people might want to consider?
I think there's definitely a couple options in the centre wing position at the Knights. Gagai first amongst them, but anyone looking for a pod play could go to anyone across that back line with Marju, Best, and Young.
I'm pretty sure Best is back next week. Yeah, there will be someone. There will be a winger from one of these sides that gets a hat trick in the last 2 rounds, and if you hit that, if you hit that super coach jackpot, that will absolutely skyrocket you. It's very hard to predict though. If we were, we'd all happening with. There'll be a couple of winger hat tricks. We know point scoring gets really loose towards the back end of the season as teams start thinking about Mad Monday. So I don't mind on one of these sides that you think have really good matchups for the run home, and Dom Young definitely fits the bill. What about? Sorry, do you want to say something?
Yeah, it's
okay. What about the Bulldogs?
Well, as a Preston owner, that wasn't great of a watch. Probably going to be missing the next couple of weeks. I don't think there are any other super coach options to trust when they
I couldn't have
seem
been
to be
more
playing this
disappointed with
bad.
them. They've had a week off, and that was rubbish. So I looked at their draw and I'm like, Canberra, Manly, Gold Coast. That's pretty good, but I just couldn't bring anyone in.
Mm.
Is that where you're at?
No. Yeah, pretty much. It's
I had Burton
just looking
question mark
toothless.
written down
Yeah,
before the game, and I've just drawn a line through it. So okay, so let's talk about the halfback position. Cleary, Hines, and SJ. They were a dart throw between them on scores this week when we all thought they were going to go really big. What are your thoughts on these three guys and for the run home?
Yeah, it's pretty hard to separate any of them, considering all of them are going to be playing the next few games. Well, except if Cleary gets rested, of course. It seems like a position where if you use trades on it, you will get burned because it's hard to tell whoever's going to be going big there
I
this
think
week.
that's where I sit as well. I think I'd love to have SJ in my out of the triumphant, but I think he's got the best draw and the chance to score well. But am I going to trade a Cleary or Hines to him? No, I'm not. It seems to be just where I think where you've fallen. I'm definitely not trading to get SJ in. But if I've got SJ, there's no way I'm moving off him. So let's try and force it. Which one would you drop? Give me the one. Give me the one that you wouldn't have for the run.
I think it would have to be. I think it would be Hines. He just looks like less of the guy in the Sharks team with Trindle there. He doesn't have to be a part of every play they make now, and that's going to reduce his output in my eyes. I guess the big thing though is going to be Cleary in round 27, as that if anyone with one trade left in that round, Cleary to SJ. If Cleary's rested, would definitely be the play.
I think that's where you go. I think you don't make this decision this week, and you wait a week, because SJ won this week, but it wasn't much, and it could clearly, I shouldn't use the word clearly with Cleary. It could have been anything between the three of them. They've all got huge ceilings at the moment, so yeah, I would concur though. I think if I was forced, I think I'd go Hines. Freddie, I think Freddie actually ruined him. He's ruined a few people with his origin selections. He ruined Cody Walker one season when he picked him and dropped him.
Yeah.
And Cody was never the same for the rest of that season. And I think I think he had a bit of a hit on Nico's psyche. Okay, fullback. We've done halfback. Fullback.
This one's been pretty much the maker of your season. It's been all ups and downs. Have no idea who's going to be going big next week. I think the big one is Walsh after the bye next week. With rounds 26 and 27, he could be looking at some really big scores as the Broncos try and muscle their way to first. I guess the other mention is Ponga. I've got him in my 5'8", but anyway, you've got Ponga. He's definitely a guy you want to have, considering he's got like a 135 round average.
Okay, I'm going to scratch Ponga from your list. I want one more. You've mentioned Walsh after this for the last two, and we've got Tedesco as the key guys there.
I think Tedesco's, he's definitely an option. I'm not sure if I would have him against even the centre wing fullback duels like Isako and Chans if you haven't got him. But he's that guy that you can, unless the Roosters absolutely drop the ball, he will be in for at least a 60. And if he can get one of those try assists, he should be getting close to an 80.
I
So
like
he
your
is always an
thoughts.
option.
I don't know. So, we're supposed to be here for what we think, but I think if you don't know, you shouldn't say anything. So I'm not going to say anything. I like Teddy because he's got 3 games. I'm not convinced on the Rabbitohs, but the Knights historically have been woeful against that left edge attack. And that's a matchup. So just like we said for, I think, Tapane and Horse, I'd be waiting a week on the fullback decision. I'd be looking in other positions and making a call on that one closer to maybe saving it for round 26, round 27, when we've got Walsh back and we can make another call then. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's where I'm sitting as
we've
well.
Talked hooker, we've talked front row, we've talked halfback and fullback. Let's turn to 2RF. Who's your preem?
Yeah, it's a bit mixed considering David Fafita's looked a bit down for the last few weeks. I still think he's definitely the guy to own. I'm not necessarily going to be buying him, but if you got him, you still got to hold him. Considering he could just go over for 2 tries in any game.
I'm with you on David.
No
So we've got 2 spots left.
I think after him though, pretty. Yeah, I was pretty close behind him. I think Snickera. He's just been looking great in that Sharks attack. And then the third option, though, has been pretty open. There's been a lot of guys to fill that role. There was Hopgood, and then there was Bateman. But I think for the run home, if he can keep the 13, it's got to be McInnes, although I'm not sure when Finucane's going to be coming back.
I'll quickly have a look, because I think he is back before the end of the season. Just give me a sec while I pull that up. Right. What do you think about a Nat Butcher?
Yeah, he's not too bad of an option considering a few of his matchups coming up. It's just not been that traditional super coach, like high upside gun that we've been expecting, but he definitely has shown he can score there. Well.
I think that third spot's wide open. I actually don't mind playing Bateman in 2 of his last 3 matchups in that spot. Whilst we're talking, I'm just pulling up the casualty ward on the NRL, just seeing when Finucane's back. Let's have a look. Cronulla Sharks. He's gone for the season.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I think McInnes would have to be the third to our
McInnes out at all. Okay, centres.
Yeah. This one's another hard one, considering you can never guess who's going to be scoring that hat trick in the week. But I think the guys that you can go for do have some pretty clear matchups. So there's an Asako. He's got some great matchups in the next few weeks. A Gagai as well. He's also in my top 4. He's just been looking brilliant, and just you could make anything happen when he's got the ball, tackle busting away. The next few are a bit open. I think Garrick would still be up there, although the Roosters, not the Roosters, the Seagulls, they've been looking a bit up and down in the last half of the season, but I still think he's definitely worth a top 4 spot. I think the last spot for me is a bit open, but if I would be going in on someone, I think it's either CNK if he's available, or a Tago. I don't mind him. If you've got those 4 trades left and you want to be winning those head-to-head matchups, he's definitely a guy you'd want to be buying next week to get up against the Dragons. He could be going big again. The only problem with Meaney is that he won't be in the fullback position round 26, and he does have those games even against those easy opposition where he just scores 40.
It's going to be hard with Meaney. Dragons next week. On the wing, potentially, or still at fullback versus the Titans, may still be worth the trade. You'd have him against the Broncos, but most people might be able to rotate him out. I'm not sure. He'd be a tough play on the wing against the Broncos, though, in the last round. What about Manu? Or would you have him at 5'8"?
Manu, he's pretty close to those options. I'm not sure if the right side's going to get as much service over the next few rounds, but Manu doesn't seem to care about those sort of matchups. He just, if he wants the ball, he gets it at dummy half and he just dives over. So he's definitely a guy close to that top four.
I think he's a guy I'd want to have. I've got Gagai, Chance, Garrick, and Manu, and then one of either Marzu or Young. Is there any other names? I suppose DWZ is quite popular. Where would you put DWZ versus a Marzu or a Young?
Yeah, I think if Chance is back in the side, and the Warriors' attack just gets back to what it was earlier, he could definitely be that option. It's hard to tell with the Warriors. They just have those down weeks, and he'll just be sitting out there cold on the wing, while guys like Gagai and Manu, they'll just be tackle busting away. And
definitely an option.
Get below 50.
And the stack is always great. You could do the Chance DWZ stack. They seem to be quite linked with. Is there any other player that we have not mentioned tonight that you think people should consider for the run home?
It's hard to tell, to be honest, considering just how up and down all the points had gone to different positions, all the tries gone everywhere. But I think if there had to be someone, it would probably be just one of those weird pot options. And for me, I think for me, it's a hard one. But I think Drew Hutchinson. I think you did mention him earlier, but if he keeps that sixth spot, he is actually a really interesting pod cut price.
I did not think you were going to say Drew Hutchison. I can see why you said it though, because with matchups, I'm just looking at their matchups here. Parramatta without Moses. That could be anything. I'm not sure what I see. Parramatta, they're flagging, in my opinion, towards the back end. Then into West, definitely. But then South, I'm not sure. But I don't. That Roosters South game in the last round, I think, is going to be, could be anything. Like, who knows which way that game's going to go. I actually think that's going to be great viewing and great super coach.
Oh, yeah. End of the year.
Is there anyone else or any strategy you want to talk about before we wrap it up?
I haven't thought much about strategies considering or trades, considering I've only got one trade left. Mostly been sitting on my hands, but I guess the name of the game is just trying to get those little points. So yeah, just it's a time of the year to pot out, see what you can get out of some players.
Then look, I don't have any magic recipe. I think we've mentioned a lot of good options. I think people should think hard about considering a Pappenhausen. I think there's some great one and done options next week against a very depleted Dolphins side. There's some great matchups next week. We also mentioned holding trades as well. It's being just as good as making trades next week. So look, I think on that we'll just wrap it up. So thanks for your time, Harold, and thanks for everyone for joining us. Is it anything you want to add?
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.